Hello, Planet Earth. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK, my BFF Jill 730. I'm Preston L. Young, and I'm wishing you warm salutations and congratulations because you made your way to the Buffyngton Post. So today we're just going to take a few minutes and talk about Buffy as a 20-something, because so much of the show is about her being a teenager, and of course she does, eventually turn 20, and then see her in season 6 and 7 as a early 20-something, but we don't get that time in the show to really explore her coming into adulthood. Whereas in the comic books, we get to do just that.
No one told you life was gonna be this way. The job's a joke you broke, your love life's the old way. It's like you're always stuck in second gear. When it hasn't been your day, a week, a month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you 'cause I'm there for you too.
Now, in Season 8, as I said in my first video, Season 8 is very much about indulgence, and Buffy kind of just throwing herself into all of these situations and scenarios, and just kind of seeing what sticks to the wall. Now, we leave Buffy in Season 7 as a 22-year-old, and when we pick up in Season 8, it's actually been a year since we've seen her, and so she's now 23 going on 24, and what she does in Season 8 is she basically, like I said, she just throws herself into everything. She's leading all of these women in the Slayer army, and everybody's looking to her like she's supposed to be in charge and know what to do, but again, she's only 23 years old, and all this is kind of overwhelming for her. She goes through all of this stuff, she tries on her lesbian pants, decides they don't fit, and she decides to, make herself into this, superpower, and she decides she's gonna, just steal a bunch of money to do it, and then she decides to, bury her power and get rid of it, and then she finds out that she can't just do that, she's still herself, and then she comes into all of this power that she has no precedent for. She's flying around, throwing around trains and things like this. And Angel presents her with this Twilight situation, and she basically kind of falls for it. She throws herself back into this relationship with Angel that's just as destructive than ever. And by the end of all this, she takes matters into her own hands, and she gets rid of all the magic. The magic is gone, and Giles is no longer in her life, so she's not only lost her mother, but pretty much her only father figure for the good majority of her life. And now when we find her in Season 9, she's, having to be a grown-up for the first time, really. And we had seen her be a grown-up, in Season 5 and on, but not to the extent where she's out on her own as a grown-up. Because, of course, by the time we're in Season 9, Dawn is no longer in need of her, guidance and motherness. She just needs a sister. She doesn't need a mom anymore because, Dawn is now 18, 19, and she's going through her own things. And so the really neat thing about it is I grew up watching Buffy when Buffy was much older than me. And since it took them 4 years to finish Season 8, by the time Season 9 premiered, Buffy and I were actually the same age. And, she's going through a lot of things that a lot of the people in my age group are really going through and dealing with. She dropped out of college. She's just working in the service industry at this cafe, and she's just kind of going through the motions and not really knowing what's expected of her. And then she's got all these unpaid student loans for college education she didn't even finish. And at a point in her life when, a lot of the people that she went to high school with are in grad school or married and having kids, she's just chilling, working at a coffee shop, trying to figure out where she fits in this world. And so she's basically, feeling like a robot. Like, she's just going through the motions, and she's in this world that isn't really her world, even though she created this. Of course, then she finds out, oh, well, I'm pregnant. And the thing about Buffy and the consequences of sex in the early years of the show, they were very metaphorical and, kind of tongue-in-cheek consequences to having sex. And then, of course, when we get into college, the ramifications of having sex are a little bit more real. And then when we get into season 6, we find that Buffy does what a lot of young people do, which is throw themselves into destructive relationships that are just sexually gratifying and not really spiritually going to get you anywhere. And of course, in season 7, Buffy kind of takes a break from sex. And then in season 8, she just kind of takes a break from sex, but she's throwing it out at Satsu. And then when she does have sex with Angel, she, has this like universe baby that tries to destroy her whole world. And now in season 9, the consequences of sex are a lot more real. Buffy finds out that she is pregnant. And what she does is she decides that her life is not the right place for a baby. And she actually decides to have an abortion. And this was a big deal for me. I didn't agree with Buffy. I thought abortion is wrong and all this good stuff. And it really took me a while to come to grips with why Buffy would make that decision. And I can't say whether it was right or wrong, because at the end of the day, she wasn't pregnant. She finds out that she wasn't pregnant. She actually is a robot. And that's why she feels like she's just going through the motions, because she's not in her body. She's not herself. And when she does get herself back into her body, she decides, well, I'm going to leave this service industry and stop feeling like a robot. And she does what a lot of us do, which is try and go out into the corporate world and get a 9-to-5er. Well, she doesn't like this. She doesn't like playing by other people's rules. She doesn't like being questioned. She likes being in charge. And so the first chance she gets, she leaves Deep Scan and she goes full-time into being the Vampire Slayer. And this is the first time that Buffy has really gone full Slayer all the time mode. We don't ever really have this. In season 6, when she comes back from the dead, she doesn't have a job and she's out slaying, but she's not really herself. And so this is the first time that we have to deal with Buffy just being the Vampire Slayer and not being, a student or a mother figure or, guide for young women. She's just having to be herself. And at this point, she has no figures in her life who are adults and older than her who can really, guide her anymore. Giles is dead. Her mother's dead. God knows where her father is. And she's just basically having to make a go of it on her own. And Spike is always there to kind of give her support and things. But he, at this point, realizes that Buffy and he don't have this connection that he really wants. And he understands that Buffy doesn't really have space in her heart for him. Or at least he thinks. And Buffy does go throughout season 9 trying to find out exactly where she fits in this world. And basically she finds that she fits in exactly where she always did, being the Slayer and making the world a better place for people like Dawn. And when she kind of comes to that realization, we pick up with her in season 10, and this is what she's doing. She is, again, all Slayer all the time, and she's doing things that a lot of us are trying to do, which is, make a place in the world for ourselves rather than trying to fit into a box. And she's having to write her own rules, literally. And she's got Giles back, but he's going through this magical midlife crisis. In season 5, we did this whole midlife crisis. Now the Buffy world has made it much more literal, and it's a lot of fun. And so, yeah, Buffy is just trying to make a go of it as a 20-something, trying to figure out what she's going to do with her life and what her life is really going to be now that she has a certain level of freedom, and now that she has kind of learned that you can't just throw yourself into everything and you can't just try and fit into what's out there for you. She's finally coming to a place in her life where she's going to decide what's going on. And that's what, this new rule magic book is all about. It's about Buffy kind of staking her claim, if you will. And so I just wanted to talk about Buffy as a 20-something because I think that a lot of the things that she's going through are really relatable. A lot of us aren't in grad school. A lot of us did drop out of college. A lot of us do have this sneaking suspicion that life is going to creep up on us and we won't be ready for it. And the fact is, you won't be. You never are. And at the same time, you always are, because it's just life. And Buffy's always been really good at illustrating that, but now that she's not in high school, now that she's not in college, now that she's on the page and, living like an adult, she's more relatable than really she's ever been. So that's really all I wanted to say. I hope I haven't bored you to death talking about Buffy in her 20s, but like I said, I think it's really important that they keep the Buffy character relatable, and I think that they've done a really good job with that in her adulthood. So pay up your student loans, like, comment, share, subscribe, and as always, question, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
No one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's the old way.